Well, the resolution, which received 14 votes in favor, called for the lifting of restrictions on humanitarian aid and the immediate release of all hostages held by Hamas. This comes as Israel advances ground offensive on Gaza and West Bank. Multiple reactions are coming from across the globe. President Trump, during his state visit to UK, noted that he had disagreements with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on the Gaza issue as UK plans to move ahead with the recognition of Palestinian state. In fact, EU as well is considering to suspend trade concessions which are given to Israel. President Sanchez has stated that Spain supports the suspension of concessions, while the German Chancellor remarked that the decision regarding, in fact, the decision will be taken in a cabinet meeting next week. Let's listen into what the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, has to say.
Wir werden eine abschließende Meinung der Bundesregierung zu diesen Fragen, die jetzt auf der europäischen Ebene zu beantworten sind, in den nächsten Tagen miteinander finden. Wir werden ja in der nächsten Woche noch einmal eine vollständige Sitzungswoche des Deutschen Bundestages in Berlin haben. Wir sind dann auch alle in Berlin. Das heißt, wir werden in der nächsten Woche auch noch einmal auf der Ebene des Bundeskabinetts über diese Fragen miteinander sprechen. Und ich gehe davon aus, dass wir dann eine Position im informellen Rat am 1. Oktober in Kopenhagen haben werden, die von der ganzen Bundesregierung auch.
Meanwhile, French president has also made a statement on Israeli advancements, stating that Israeli actions are destroying its credibility across the globe. Take a listen to what French president had to say.
Having this type of operations in Gaza is totally counterproductive, because this is being, I have to say, a failure. The second point is that you are making so many civilians casualties and victims that you are completely destroying the image and the credibility of Israel, not just in the region, but in public opinions everywhere.
Well, joining us at this point in time is Dr. Emmanuel Navon, International Relations Lecturer at Tel Aviv University and Senior Fellow at Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for your time on NewsX World. I'd like to understand from you, what do you make of this stance that the US has now chosen to take at the UNSC? How important is it from the Israeli point of view?
Look, I think the United States took an important moral stance at the Security Council. Because what was fundamentally flawed was the resolution, which, by the way, was submitted by Algeria. Algeria is a country that has very close ties with Iran, that is spreading trouble in North Africa, has a very tense relation with Morocco. Morocco is a strong ally of Israel. Algeria, of all countries, submitting such a resolution, which, as you said, as your report said, called for the liberation of the hostages. But what would liberate the hostages? Hamas doesn't want to free them. And the resolution calls for an unconditional end of the war, as you mentioned. Well, it should be conditional. And the condition should be that first Hamas should release the Israeli hostages and lay down its arms. And we in Israel very much regret that 14 members of the Security Council voted in favor of this resolution. Israel also wants an end of the war. But the end of the war has to be conditional. And as I said, the condition has to be the release of our hostages and Hamas laying down its arms.
Right, absolutely. I'd also like to understand from you, the Spanish president has supported the proposal of suspension of the trade concessions with Israel. Germany has also indicated that it will be deliberating on the matter very soon. In your assessment, what would happen if this proposal were to be acted on?
Well, first of all, it's not the Spanish president, it's the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez. Don't forget that this man is ridden with scandals. He is, he's holding to power despite the fact that he did not win the last election, just because he made an alliance with the far left, with communists, and with pro-independent movements. This man basically regretted, he said a couple of weeks ago, that he wished that Spain had a nuclear bomb to attack Israel. He encouraged hooligans to attack Israeli athletes who took place in the racing tour in Spain. This man is completely insane. He has an obsession with Israel. He's very radical. By the way, he was not even invited by President Trump to the White House last month when President Trump has all his NATO allies around his table at the White House, because Sanchez is a radical. So we really don't care what Sanchez says. And by the way, Israel's military ties with Spain are really very minimal. Spain depends on Israel militarily more than the other way around. When it comes to Germany, on the other hand, Germany is a very close ally of Israel. We very much respect the Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, and we have a dialogue. With Germany, it's possible to have a dialogue. We have disagreements, but Chancellor Merz is a reasonable man with whom we sometimes have dialogues. This is not the case of Pedro Sanchez, who is a hypocrite, who hates Israel, and we have to make the difference between those two